What is up, y'all? It's the Sound Alchemist, and I'm sitting here next to
Gershwan.
and that means we're going to be giving you another episode of For the Greater
WAAAGH! This is a video series where we answer the questions left by you, the viewer. If you have a question for us, comment down below. Put a question in front of your question because we get those questions first. That is what the Ascended One did. He asks, which Loyalist Primarch is most likely to become a traitor? That's a really good question.
The one that comes to mind for me, it's one that I wouldn't say it's most likely, but can easily be skewed that way, and that is Sanguinius, for a few reasons. One, he's supposed to be dead, but apparently that got retconned, so he's in a near-death state. And maybe being in such a near-death state and seeing that his Space Marines have fallen to the Red Thirst as well as the Black Rage, seeing that Horus has been completely, destroyed with no chance of, his soul being redeemed or anything like that. Maybe those events are going to psychically mess him up, that he's going to come back and want maybe vengeance on the Emperor for not allowing his best friend Horus a chance at redemption, and for maybe finding out that the gene seed impurities was a thing that the Emperor did deliberately to weaken the Space Marines so he can later on get rid of them as a tool. So because of that, he'd be painted as a traitor, but not a chaos devoted one, just a renegade that's going out there and attacking the Imperium for a righteous cause.
Yeah, I could see that. For me, I think the Primarch that would most likely be a traitor is Leman-Russ, just because of the fact that he himself is very Cornish, where he wants to do battle, he wants honor, he wants pride, and he expects his sons to be the same way. And obviously his genetic flaw is it turns you into a fucking werewolf.
That's true, yeah.
Which is pretty evil chaotic.
I mean, he was, the Emperor's lapdog. That was his little nickname.
Yeah.
So it's you've got this ferocious dog on the leash, just frothing at the mouth, ready to attack. Don't matter who, just point him and he'll attack. And yeah, that's pretty chaotic.
Yeah. And also the story behind him leaving is tied to him trying to search for what is it called? It's a pool of life or something like that.
Fountain of Youth.
Yeah, Fountain of Youth, something like that, in order to help the Emperor revive. That has Tzeentch written all over it. That's and obviously because of the whole connection between Leman-Russ and Magnus the Red and Tzeentch and I think that it is a plot to get Leman-Russ towards Tzeentch so that Tzeentch can do his thing, and change him, not to make him a demon prince, or not to make him a servant of Tzeentch, but to use him as a pawn, thus creating a traitor or whatever. So my vote is Leman-Russ.
Yeah. What about you guys?
What do you think?
Good question, Camino Shogun. This one's by Digital Sigma. Besides the Emperor or a Primarch coming back, what sort of big event would you like to see happen in the 40k universe in the near future? To me, there's two really big ones that we need to literally find out what happened. And I think that is the Ulanor, what's happening on Ulanor, with the orcs and the Tyranids and what came out of that. Because obviously that's where Gaskell was, and then he left to go fight Ragnar, who became a Primaris and all that. But it's what ended up happening over there? It's whatever happens, the outcome of that is going to shake the entire galaxy.
Yeah.
And I think the other one that's probably more prevalent, because it doesn't involve Xeno versus Xenos, is the events going on between I forgot his name. Wow.
What's
Abaddon. Oh. It's you've got the whole Vigilus campaign, but it's what happens next? What's going to be the next step for Chaos? And I think that's probably going to be the next real big push in the events of 40k.
Yeah, I agree with the first one. I definitely think that it's the Tyranids versus the orcs and what's really happening in that whole campaign that GW might not even answer.
Right.
Next question comes from Jomel Apostle. How powerful is the weapons of the Necrons that even after so many millennia, it's still effective? That's a good point, because it is one of those situations where like, if, like, let's say the ancient Aztecs went into tombs and somehow hibernated and they came out with their obsidian steel, it's still like, yeah, we got guns now. So, like, the process or the advancement just doesn't seem there. And I think the reason for that is that the Necrons themselves could not rely on warp. Whereas every single race that has come before at some point does rely heavily on warp technology. So that means that normal technology cannot flourish, or for some reason is halted, whereas the Necrons never had that.
Right. They just put it in stasis.
Yeah. But they reached that point because they couldn't be like, oh, my gun, or I can just travel through the warp. Like, no, we have to figure out this whole physics thing in order to survive.
Yeah, and the whole thing with Necrodermis and the Canoptic Wraiths and Spiders, they're also like healing and like protecting the tomb worlds and stuff like that.
For sure. Next question.
Brian Pagan, even with all of their technology and scientific advances, has the Imperium been able to find the woman's G-spot?
Yes. So you stick it in, and then you do this motion.
Oh, wow. That I felt that.
Camino Shogun. What part of the 40k lore sucks you in to 40k?
Definitely for me. Yeah. No, it was the Tau and the freaking Gundam suits that they had. Yeah, it was the Tau and their battle suits.
I think whenever I hear a story of the savagery of the orcs and like the goofiness draws me in, like from an orc war boss going into the warp, time traveling 15 minutes before he went into the warp, and then fighting past him for his lucky or his favorite gun. I think that kind of like draws me into 40k. It's like, oh yeah, this place is really goofy. Yeah, so things like that.
I mean, that's a really cool idea and concept of like time travel and stuff.
Yeah. Next question.
This one is by Sam Roberts. With Fulgrim's clone being with Trazian, if Trazian ends up with the Silent King, could you guys see them using Fulgrim's clone as a weapon against the Imperium?
Trazian actually has all the clones, I believe. There's only... Fulgrim is the only one that has been fully developed.
Right.
But yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Use him as like a sleeper agent. Or I don't even know how, because it's like everybody should know what Fulgrim looks like.
And also, I don't think the Fulgrim clone would side with the Necrons.
Right.
Because he didn't even side with
Chaos.
Yeah, so...
Because even though Fulgrim went to Chaos, like, he's a loyalist. Clone Fulgrim is, at least.
Next question.
Din Tran, what rule would you like to add or change in the next edition? So that's an interesting one, because currently, I think the biggest rule change in 9th has been the Overwatch becoming a stratagem.
That's true, yeah.
Yeah, because everything else, it's like, everybody gets command points, pretty much the table size is adjusted depending on the point values you guys play. So I don't think it's been anything crazy so far. But I think a rule change that I would like to see in this edition is something to kind of... It's like you want to help out a player without limiting them to using the Forced Org chart. But I kind of feel like that's already been done because everybody starts off with the same amount of command points. But it's like, throughout the years, it's like you always have to have an HQ, 2 troops, and then you have like the Vanguard detachment, brigades, and all that. But there's a lot of people who've just been collecting pieces of armies throughout the years, and maybe they don't have enough to make like a brigade or something like that. So maybe you could, a way to ally like Eldar with Dark Eldar, with Tau, with Space Marines, and still have a force, and not punish them by not having like the Force Org rule sets in there.
Somewhere like kit-bashed armies.
Yeah, just a conglomeration of a bunch of armies. Like, let's say you're invading a world and all these armies are on there, but your friends all playing Chaos, and you've got like a whole, mismatched, army.
Yeah, that would be cool. I think I didn't like how Terrain was being played. I thought Terrain was pointless.
They changed that.
Yeah. Hopefully it does well. But that always has been a big problem with most editions.
Yeah.
Where like it's either too convoluted, like where each individual piece has different stats, or it's just completely ignored.
Right.
Yeah. Next question. What do you got?
Glob Gobsmack. So let's say that Abaddon the Despoiler was successful in laying siege to Terra and killing the Emperor, taking his place as ruler. Would he try to change the Imperium for the better, or would the Chaos Gods likely use the Imperium or the Emperor's death as a means to conquer the galaxy fully?
If Abaddon took over, it would be the same thing that would have happened if Horus would have taken over, which is that humanity just ends up fighting a civil war and they all kill each other.
Right. The decline in humanity.
Yeah.
Which essentially weakens the Chaos Gods. But that's what will happen.
Because that's the thing, too, about like the Great Crusade. Most of the stories of Space Marines or like Space Marine battles during the Great Crusade, a lot of them are just pacification wars. So that's like, pacification, and then they rebel, and then the Space Marines have to go back in and be like, no, like, you're done. And the same would happen with the Abaddon. Like, he'll take over. He's like, you guys are chaotic now. Like, no, we're not. And then it's just like, civil war. Next question.
This one is by Tambletrack. How many Eldar are left alive in 40k? Because haven't they been on the verge of extinction since their fall, like 11,000 years ago? And even through thousands of Guardians and Wraith Guards and all these battles, they're still here.
The Eldar were a lot. They were just like the Imperium. So when people say, oh, we're a dying race, it's because they went from like
the golden age to a decline,
which is trillions and trillions, to like 100,000.
Right. Eran así, tantos así.
We don't even have a name for it.
Right, it's just this.
Yeah, and now there's a fraction of what used to be, but it's still
a lot.
Yeah. Also, like, it used to be, from my understanding, that they couldn't procreate. Now I understand that it takes a really long time for them to actually procreate. So yeah, next question.
This one's not really a question, but I just wanted to put it out there. So Jordo Johnson said, and he quotes, "Absorbing your balls into your body is a radical move," end quote. Couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah, it's a radical move.
It is.
It's a power move too, because like imagine like you're just standing there and you have both of them out, and then that's radical.
Yeah, it's like you sense danger coming and you suck them in.
It's like, try me. Next question comes from Zadrigo. How come you read so many questions by Ty Shingleton? Because he posts a lot.
Yeah.
I've heard your name too, Zadrigo.
Now here's a name that I've heard outside of this channel. Alejandro Pardo Sanchez.
Have you really?
No, I haven't. Oh. Is the Emperor's psychic power compatible to that of maybe even Tzeentch?
No.
I mean, as strong as the Emperor is, it's like he ain't no god.
No. So another way to look at it too is like a Chaos God is made up of that power, whereas the Emperor manipulates the power. Next question comes from The Seeker. Is Impervious still canon? God of Astronomicon?
I mean, I guess if you consider the Emperor that, because I mean, he is powering the Astronomicon now.
Yep. Next question.
This one is also by The Seeker. Do you think that Lorgar has a bigger role to play? I hope so. Dude's been meditating for how many years?
17.
Algo así, yeah. It's like he skipped out on this quinceañera. Like, he better make it worth it.
I know.
It's like I was ready to dance. Get my, zapateada on?
Yeah. Next question comes from Eric Ortiz. You guys ever tried Dark Heresy or Rogue Trader RPGs? I bought the Dark Heresy book. It's one of my favorite books just to read. And obviously we have a bunch of 40 facts on that series. But no, we've never actually played.
Right. It's an interesting concept, like. But
the thing that grinds my gears about that game, Dark Heresy specifically, is
I
that
already know what you're gonna say.
It's Inquisition and it's humans.
Right.
Nobody wants to play as a fucking human. You're in this fantastical sci-fi universe and you want to be a human? Get out of here.
¿Por qué? It's the same thing in D&D. Why play a human when you can be a freaking, like, a grung?
Yeah.
Kobold. Miguelito Sanchez, if he wasn't human.
Exactly.
Alan Vans. So I've watched your video on creating my own homebrew Space Marine chapter. However, I would also like to accompany my Space Marine chapter with that of a Sisters of Battle chapter. So, are Sisters of Battle structurally the same, or are they totally different as Space Marines, as they do not use gene seeds and are not genetically modified like them?
Physically, they're nothing the same. Well, even hierarchy, they're not the same. But the thing is that what you want to do is you want to create a Space Marine chapter that believes in the Imperial Creed and believes in a specific protection of a certain area. Because cardinal worlds, or worlds where like there's specific relics, can also be patrolled by Space Marines. It just doesn't have to be the ecclesiarchy and their goons. But yeah, you can have like a cool ass Space Marine chapter that works alongside the Sisters of Battle.
Right.
Yeah.
And like the Sisters of Battle, like even though they don't have the same structure or gene seeds, think of them as like an Imperial Guard regiment, just with like similar armor and weapons as a Space Marine.
Yeah, and what's cool is that the Sisters of Battle get their recruits from either the convent or from the Schola Progenium. So they take the best women and they become Sisters of Battle. The Adeptus, some Space Marine chapters also take from the Schola Progenium. So you could even have like two set of kids that basically have grown up together their entire lives. And after they graduate, one of them is a Sister of Battle and the other one is an Adeptus Astartes. There's still that camaraderie. Even though most Space Marines do lose who they used to be, there have been some that still retain the knowledge of, like, these were my ancestors.
Right.
So it'd be cool if, like, I retained the knowledge of, like, oh, yeah, I kind of remember you. You Sister of Battle chick.
It's like my balls are in my body now, but I still remember you.
Yeah. Do you want to see?
It's like he's got to, like, plug his nose and, like, blow him out.
Boop, boop. They're like bubble gum.
I was thinking of, like, a frog's throat.
Yeah. Next question.
Tim Srame. Which female troop choice in 40k is the most badass? Sisters of Battle, obviously. Nah.
That's really the only one.
Farseers, because a lot of them are women.
They're not badass, though.
Wielding freaking white lightning and...
Bolter sounds more badass.
Yeah.
Even though I don't like the new Sisters of Battle heads.
Yeah, a lot of them are very, like...
dumb. Like, it's like they're screaming.
And then it's like their faces are all contorted.
So, whoever was sculpting those, you did a bad job.
But I feel like, in general, unhelmeted heads, I don't like.
I love unhelmeted. I used to be like that, but now I realize how awesome unhelmeted
It adds
heads.
personality.
It does. And then once you learn how to paint them, and it's not that hard. It's like you get flesh color, hit it with a wash, and then dry brush, and boom, you're done.
You can do that for, like, everything.
That's true.
But yeah, I don't know. It's just, you're in a war zone, put a helmet on. That's like a target.
Yeah.
But, I mean, personality, right?
Yeah. This question comes from Anime San. Is it possible for the Dark Eldar to do any good? Are they irredeemable? No, because, like, their whole thing is, like, in order for me to survive, in order for me to maintain my youth, I need to cause pain. So, like, at the core of it, like, for a Dark Eldar to do good away from, like, just relative, or what is it? Relative good. You need to say you're going to die.
Right. This one's by Chaplain Grimaldus. Greetings. Asking again. Hopefully, third time is lucky. If Lehman was successful in his quest to revive his father, the Emperor, do you think that we would see more Primarchs return to Terra? And if we did, do you think that some would get along well, or could this result in a conflict between the Primarchs and maybe even between chapters of Astartes?
There would definitely be conflict.
But do you think that the Emperor coming back would be enough to bring back the Primarchs?
Lore-wise, yeah, it makes sense. Would GW want to do that? Probably not.
Yeah, again, too many eggs in the same basket.
Yeah, but at the same time, Games Workshop, like you could tell kind of what Games Workshop would do, and there has to be a reason why Gilliman, or somebody who has an Ultramarines army, and they have Gilliman, and they want to fight, like, a guy who has Sanguinius and a Blood Angels army, there has to be a reason for the fight and, like, conflict.
It could just be a training exercise
It could be
with
yeah.
live ammo.
Yeah, killing actual people. Yeah. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of these Primarchs are like gone because they're trying to find a way to revive the Emperor. So yeah, bringing him back with Lehman Russ or whoever would probably bring back a few of them. Not all, because I think like Vulcan would still need all his relics to be found. Jagdai Khan, whenever he's done fighting the Dark Eldar, would come back.
But yeah. And those are the questions for today. If you guys have more questions for us, please comment down below. Thank you guys so much for listening, and we'll see you tomorrow.
This has been the Sound Alchemist,
Gershwan.
and we are out of here.